This is the I Read Comic Books podcast. I am your host, Mike Rappin. With me this week, 4 fantastic human beings? Yes, that's actually what's happening this week. We have 4 people on the show. We have Brian Murray.
Hello.
Kait Lamphere.
Hi.
Pat Shand.
You're...
And Emily Pearson.
Hello.
Thank you guys for joining me this week. Pat and Emily, you are our special guests on the show. Why are you here? We're here to talk to you about something that's really cool that's happening. Could you introduce yourself to us, just in case people don't know who you are? Let's start with you, Pat.
Yeah, I'm Pat Shand. I'm a writer, and I'm here to talk about, with my co-creator, Emily, our new book, Snap Flash Hustle, dropping from Black Mask. It was going to be the end of this month, but the printer had a bit of a flub, so it's now officially December 5th.
Okay. Just a week delay. That's not too bad.
Not too bad at all, yeah.
And Emily, who are you?
I'm Emily Pearson. I am the artist on Snap Flash Hustle. And yeah, I'm a comic book artist.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining me this week. I know that's kind of a weird thing to ask. I don't know. But we're here to talk about comic books. And to start this show, we always ask the question, how have you been? How have comic books been? Let's start with you, Emily.
So I've been reading a lot of Black Mask stuff, a lot of Vault stuff, kind of just stuff my peers are making lately. Liana Congas and Vida Ayala got me a chance to read the new Black comic book, Devil's Die, which was really good.
Very nice.
Kind of takes a different direction for the series and expands the universe a little bit, which is super nice. As always, I'm always reading Long Lost. I think it's almost finished up, but I'm not quite sure. I think it has a couple more issues to go. And then, Heathen, a bunch of different stuff like that. So it's been pretty good. Oh, Submerged as well. I think they're either about to finish that or they just finished that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I knew that was pretty... Brian, you're reading that, aren't you?
I picked up the first one, and then
okay.
I've been grabbing it and not reading it, which is my fashion.
I've been reading it. I'm pretty behind, but...
Gotcha. Well, cool. Well, Brian, what about you? How have you been? How have comic books been? All that stuff.
I've been good. I was up at 6 o'clock this morning to go claim a Spider-Man PS4 bundle.
Nice.
So you guys should feel honored that I would rather be here talking to you than playing my new video game.
It's pretty great. I've been playing Red Dead.
Ooh, I hear good things.
Me too.
Pretty good.
As far as comics go, Life is Strange #1 just came out this past week, which is something I was looking forward to. I'm a big fan of the Life is Strange video game because it cracked the shell around my heart and made me feel things. This book is kind of a continuation of the game, so they've sort of chosen to make either ending of the game canon and also neither ending of the game canon. It's interesting. There's a split at the end of the game, basically. 2 different paths you can go down, and this game sort of straddles that line. Or this book straddles that line. So that's very interesting. I also picked up Bitter Root #1, which is this really cool... It's set in Harlem in 1924, and it's sort of like a pulpy monster hunting type book. But it appears to be focusing really heavily on people of color and what it was like to live in Harlem and be a black person in Harlem in the 20s.
Gotcha.
Which is a really fascinating perspective to have this otherwise... I don't want to say it's a played out idea, but there is a lot of supernatural monster hunting going on in popular culture these days. But I definitely haven't seen one in this kind of setting with this kind of focus. So it's a really interesting way to approach that concept.
Gotcha. I saw the covers for that book, and just the covers alone were really striking, so I'm glad to hear the book is pretty solid as well.
Yeah, it's really good.
What about you, Pat?
You know what? I'm good, first off. I went to Walmart today, did some quick shopping with my wife, who has lately been really into dolls. So we were looking for a specific kind of doll there. Didn't find it, but we're going to try again. Not, but comics. Comics are pretty good now. I've been reading a lot of comics that I've gotten from Kickstarter. I back a lot of campaigns there, and have been enjoying that. I think that largely the direct market kind of looks down on that because it's the future. But I've enjoyed White Ash by Charlie Stickney and Connor Hughes and Finn Cram there. That book actually, it's in its third issue. The fourth is on Kickstarter right now, but I read 3 last night. And that was the best of the series so far. That's one I would definitely recommend to anyone who isn't already reading it. I've enjoyed that book probably more than any direct market book out this year, with maybe the exception of Heathen by Natasha Alterici. And, of course, Strangers in Paradise is back going on. That to me is the greatest example of our medium ever. And Terry Moore as an artist and a writer is just killing it. The first trade dropped recently. And, yeah, that's just been a beautiful book.
Cool. I'm a big proponent of Kickstarter books as well. So I'm like, it is the future. It's a thing I absolutely love as myself.
Definitely.
Kait, what about you? How have you been? How have comic books been?
I've been good. I finally sat down and read the Uniques Volume 1. I grabbed this when I was at the Grand Rapids Comic-Con a week or two back. I recently talked about Rainbow in the Dark by Comfort Love and Adam Withers, and this book is by that same couple. I actually picked up the first 3 volumes while I was there. And this couple is great. They signed all of them. They gave me, I got some prints that they also signed. They're really nice people to talk to. This is their take on a superhero story. In this book, superheroes are generally accepted by the public, and they can team up and they can fight crime, and they get stipends from the government from their work. So that's different from some of the other, superhero stories in the market, but there are quite a few things that are similar to other superhero books in the market with the series. I like this book because I find the group in this to be fairly diverse. It's led by a young woman probably about my age. She looks a lot like me, so that's kind of cool. But I'm just really excited to find another group of people that kind of remind me of like the Runaways and the way that they have unique personalities and relationships with one another. So I'm excited to see where this goes.
Cool. Well, for me this week, I've been reading quite a few books, actually. I don't know what it is. It's like I maybe subconsciously told myself you need to read at least like 3 to 5 issues of comics or something every day. So for like the last week, I've been reading a lot of comics. But the books that have been standing out for me recently, I read Black Canary from 2015-2016, Volume 1. This is Brendan Fletcher, Annie Wu, and Pia Guerra. This is the book that was like, what if Black Canary disappeared and started a band, and had some of the most gorgeous color work I think I've seen in comics in a long time. Honestly, I was mostly just impressed by that. The art in this whole book is really incredible, but man, oh man, what a fantastic looking, just from a color perspective. You could take out all the lettering and everything, and the book would just look beautiful. Every single page is like that. I was really impressed by that. But I read this book because it was part of a book club that I'm in my office about found families, and I've never read a book that was more directly about, hey, this is my new found family, than this series. So if you're looking for something like that, I think this ran for 2 volumes, so it's a pretty short read. I only read the first volume, but man, it's really, really good. But I also discovered that I know very little about Black Canary, like to the point where half of this run was very confusing, and I I really had to roll with some punches. And being like a huge X-Men fan, it's kind of the natural status quo of things, but with this book, it was at a whole different level. So, yeah. I also read In Real Life. This is by Cory Doctorow and Jen Wang. The long and short of this story is an MMORPG leads a young girl to discover the harsh realities of life in a world far different from her own, where quote-unquote gold farming in-game is the only means of life for some people in real life. This is a really heartbreaking story. I don't know if you've read this. It's a really, really, really good just standalone graphic novel. Jen Wang also did the series, or a graphic novel called The Prince and the Dressmaker. And man, that was a fantastic book as well, and led me to go buy this when I saw it at Emerald City Comic Con. So it's just been sitting on my shelf, and I was like, you know what, let's sit down and actually just read a solid book. And this one totally kicked butt from beginning to end. I highly recommend this one. Like, might be the best graphic novel I've read this year, hands down. So yeah, that's been me.
I'll have to check that out too. I really liked the Prince and the Dressmaker.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Kate, I think this is definitely up your alley if you're looking for something that's similar.
Yeah,
it's not like fantasy by any means, but it's got the same kind of feel, and Jen Wang's art is unbelievably good.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, let's talk about comic books that are coming out this upcoming week or in the near future. Comic books are being released on November 21st, 2018. Let's talk about what we're excited for. Let's start with you, Brian.
For me this week, I'm looking forward to Smooth Criminals #1. It's a new series coming out on Boom. It sounds like it's about this woman, Brenda, who is sort of a hacker type, and she discovers a cryogenically frozen master thief from the 60s.
Okay.
Now, I don't know the context for how she finds her, like if she accidentally thaws her out or something, but I'm excited to find out. So it seems like it's going to be kind of a fish underwater, that's where fish belong, a fish out of water story on both directions, where Mia, the spy, is going to have to be adapting to the modern world, and Brenda, looks like kind of a self-secluding hacker, is going to have to adapt to having this 60s spy character in her midst. I think it's a really interesting concept, and so I'm excited to check that out and see where it goes.
I'm very surprised there hasn't been a book before called Smooth Criminals. Like, that just seems like a very good title.
I'm sure there has been.
Yeah. Well, what about you, Pat? What are you excited for this upcoming week or in the near future?
Well, this week I just looked at the list. The one that kind of stands out to me as a single issue is Scotty Young's new thing, Middle West. It does look good. I'm excited to see him doing something that looks a bit more like it's serious, because obviously I Hate Fairyland is good. It's compelling, but it has that kind of manic energy that we expect from him. This seems a bit more like maybe dark and grounded, and yeah. So that one, and also I believe the first volume of Venom by Donny Cates is coming out in trade, and I haven't been following that, so I'm excited to jump on to that series in trade, because I'm a big fan of what Donny's doing, and the way that he talks about the book makes me wish I was reading it in single issues, but just the idea of hopping onto any superhero book single issues kind of makes me crazy, because what I tend to do, and this is a bad habit, but I'll read a first issue and then I'll buy the next 5, and by the time I read them, it's already in trade, so it's kind of worthless,
Right. I mean, and let's be honest, like, Donny Cates is probably the best hype man for Donny Cates in the world.
Right, but you know what? I love that, because there's this trend for comics writers to do this cringy post where they're like, my book is coming out, the art's amazing, the colors are amazing, and if you can enjoy that, you can at least stand my writing. It's like, no, you should think that you're the best. Like, just push yourself. If you don't sell yourself, then no one's going to want to buy you. It's undercutting the theme. So I love that Donnie's actually like, no, I'm dope.
I know. It's like, and I wasn't trying to say that as a slight. It's just like, I've never seen someone push their book so well and so hard, and it's so great. Like, he honestly, like, he's one of the highlights of my like Twitter feed sometimes, when just how happy he is to be creating the books that he's creating.
100%.
Cool. Well, Kate, what are you excited for this upcoming week?
I'm excited for Shuri #2 by Nadia Okorafor, Leonardo Romero, and Sam Spratt. I read Shuri #1 and I loved it. It started with a group of wise women electing Shuri to take on the mantle of Black Panther. T'Challa is missing because he disappeared into space.
T'Challa went to space. It doesn't matter why.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's go with that.
Yeah, Shuri feels bad because she made some of the tech that that he was using at the time. So she's also dealing with some feelings of guilt on top of, taking his job over while he's gone. Issue number 1 was all about how Shuri felt guilty about creating this tech in the first place and whether or not she wanted to take on the mantle of Black Panther. And so I'm excited for number 2 when the action will start happening. And I haven't read a whole lot of Black Panther before this, but I'm interested to see how Shuri's relationship with technology is going to inform her decisions as a superhero.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I've heard good things about that series.
Yeah. It sounds really good.
I'm kind of glad that you're going to be picking it up, Kate, because I didn't like number 1 very much, but I would like to keep reading it without paying for it. So
Okay, so I'll buy it and you'll read it.
That's marriage, folks. It's great.
Yep.
I'm excited for Coming to Me number 4 from Black Mask.
Me too.
Oh, for sure. Definitely.
Oh my gosh, that book is like top tier books right now.
Oh
Sorry,
my God,
didn't mean
it's
to
so good.
completely interrupt.
That book is just like, it's like reading an acid trip. It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Zach Thompson, Lonnie Nadler, and then I'm not sure how to say the artist's name. It's Peter Kowalski or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's great art. I mean, Zach and Lonnie they always know what they're doing. So, yeah, I think it's been going on for a little bit, so I'm pretty happy to see it coming back.
Yeah, me too. I think you turned me on to this series in the first place the last time you were on the show, and I have been obsessed. So thank you so much for bringing this book to my life.
Yeah, it's
so good.
It's a little unfortunate because that was back in like February or so, and now it's like issue 4. It's like they're very busy, so it makes sense. But it's just like I want more, man.
Yeah, I think one of them was talking about this on Twitter. They're like, sorry, this book has been taking forever. And quite honestly, given the quality of this series, if it means that I need to wait 2 months or so between issues, or 3 months even, I'm willing to I'm willing to totally wait for that because it is that good of a series. I don't know. I think there is. I know that we have this is like a whole bigger discussion, so I know we could maybe get into this after the break, but we have this whole, this book needs to come out every single month or people are going to forget about it. But when you've got a series that I think is as strong as this one, if you say, hey, we're going to do it every other month versus every month, I think fans are willing to accept that. But of course, that comes with the caveat of yes, this is a small independent publisher and yada, yada, yada. But I'm okay with waiting because I know that book is going to be super solid.
Yeah, for sure.
For me, I guess this week, I am excited for Black Hammer Age of Doom number 7. Not too much to say about this issue, given that it is kind of in the middle of an arc. All I know is that we're going to see more of Captain Weird. If you're following this series, you'll know that Captain Weird is the cosmic kind of sees the futures, multiple futures, an analogous character for, the Spectre or some other people that you would see in DC Comics or Marvel Comics. But the art by Rich Tommaso in this current arc is crazy. That's the only way that I can describe it, and I'm loving it completely. I've Jeff Lemire, rotating artist between all the various miniseries and the various arcs of all of his Black Hammer books that he's been doing. Has been really impressive, and I'm totally loving what's happening right now in Age of Doom. So count me in. I'm very excited for this issue. So if you need a superhero book to just jump right into, Pat, I would suggest Black Hammer.
I mean, that news that he has a whole universe getting picked up, it's crazy, It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Very excited about that.
Definitely.
That's funny because I'm normally pretty easy to please when it comes to superhero books, but I could not get into Black Hammer at all.
Blasphemy, Brian.
Look.
I'm kidding.
I think it's just because the first bit that I read, the very beginning of the first arc or whatever, everything was so kind of drab, and it reminded me of a lot of modern war video games where everything is sort of run through a muddy brown filter. And everything in that book reminded me of that, and so it was just I don't know, reading it was making me sad, so I stopped.
I got you.
It's definitely a stylistic choice, and I'm not qualified to pass judgment, but it was not something that I was enjoying.
Gotcha. Well, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Snap Flash Hustle. for our show this week. As I said at the top, we have two special guests on the show this week. So Pat and Emily, before we dive into the array of questions that Brian, Kait, and I have, could you guys tell us a little bit about what Snap Flash Hustle is, what people who are looking forward to this book, like everyone here on the show, is what we should expect when this issue actually comes out?
Yeah, for sure. Snap Flash Hustle, it's a story about a group of alt models in New York City who are using social media as a means by which to hide their drug business in plain sight.
Oh.
So just everyday life then.
Okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I live my life in New York. I didn't know you were writing a book about me.
A little known fact, Mike is actually an alternative model.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm also that. Well, cool. So you guys, so you're working with Black Mask for this book. Is there a reason you decided to go with an actual publisher versus Kickstarter? Because Pat, I know you've done some pretty successful Kickstarters in the past. I was a big fan of Destiny New York, so thank you for that
thanks.
book.
Thank you.
But yeah, what made you guys go the route of a publisher versus Kickstarter?
I mean, it's kind of hard to say because it does come down to a couple of things for me personally.
Sure.
Because with this one, if no one had picked it up, then I would have talked to Emily about doing it through Kickstarter. But because it's one of those books that I like need to happen, you know.
Okay.
But the truth is that Matt just said yes. You know, I showed him a bunch of ideas. And at the same time as he picked up Breathless, he picked up Snap Flash Hustle and something else that's coming out, should be next year. So this one was never one that we really, we by the time we were developing it, we had already kind of gotten it greenlit, you know? So there was never really a big conversation about what would happen if we didn't get it picked up. But yeah, no, the truth is that for the books that I've tried to push to a publisher, I've had great luck in getting them picked up. So now when I choose a Kickstarter book, pretty much I kind of pick which ones I'm going to do on Kickstarter. But I do have the books that are like my heart embodied. So if I don't get it picked up, I will eventually Kickstart it. But I have been very lucky though, you know?
Yeah, totally. And Emily, have you had any experience with Kickstarter, like working on Kickstarter funded books or anything like that?
Just anthology work mainly. But Pat and I were both in mine, the Planned Parenthood anthology, and then
right.
I did Corpus and Everything Is Going Wrong, and I mean that wasn't a lot of effort on my part because I had to wait for it to be funded, and then it's like, okay, just do the pages, and that was kind of it. So I haven't really had the same experience that Pat has had with that.
Gotcha. Brian and Kait, feel free to dive in with questions, or I'm just going to keep going on what I've got from my list.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Brian.
Jeez. It's like this at our house every day. Kait, please ask your question.
I was just going to ask, Pat and Emily, were you paired up by Black Mask, or did you find each other before you approached the publisher?
Yeah, we found each other, like, I think a few months before we approached Black Mask. Right. I feel like I'm not sure with other publishers, but I feel with Black Mask they kind of prefer, unless you have like an ongoing series like something like Black, they kind of prefer that you find the artists and the team on your own and you come with the team to the publisher. Yeah, Pat and I both really wanted to work with each other, so it was just a matter of finding a publisher that wanted to work with us.
Cool. Did you find each other through that other anthology, or did you find each other on Twitter or some other way?
It was Twitter, yeah. I think that we had already decided to work on Snap Flash Hustle together before Emily drew the anthology story, because what that was, in that book, I worked with Liana on my story, and Emily actually illustrated a story written by my wife, Amy. So that was just an idea that we had along the way. I'd say probably a year and a half ago, maybe a year and a couple of months ago is when we started talking about this. So yeah, it was definitely on Twitter, DMs and stuff.
That's cool. I love how Twitter has helped out the comics industry so much.
I'll say you've heard it here first, folks. Twitter is actually good for something.
Yeah.
It's so good. I mean, when I'm looking to hire someone to do like some rewards or a short story for my Kickstarter stuff, Twitter's the first and usually the last place that I go, you know?
Yeah. It's a lot easier to get connected with a bunch of different writers and artists and editors and all that stuff through Twitter because I don't know, it's going to cons and approaching people it's kind of, I feel like how things were done before, but like it's so hard to get someone's attention at a con. I mean, they're talking to so many people while they're there. So Twitter's really helpful for stuff like that.
It's true, and the most amazing part about Twitter is, in the past, when you would go to someone's site and see their samples, you have to work with them for a while before you know they're crazy. On Twitter, that's not the case anymore. You know, you kind of know going in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Pat knew ahead of time.
So it sounds like you have some experience with crazy then.
Yeah.
So Brian, what was the question that I cut you off about?
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask, I guess I'm not totally certain what an alternative model is. So I was wondering if you could kind of explain that and then maybe get into how that's going to inform the story.
Yeah, you know, definitely. I mean, the kind of broad meaning of alt model is the modeling industry has kind of always had, at least this modern industry, this kind of stereotypical look of what a model is supposed to look like. And even as that changes, they still have a very strict sort of look that you have to aspire toward. An alt model is different. An alt model can have a different body shape, different tattoos. It's just a much more open industry. And what's crazy is that the way that this industry looks at just a traditional model is so narrow that the different thing, the alt model, is so much more of a wider thing. You know, you could just have something very small about you that's different. Like, say, you could have a little quote under your collarbone and you're an alt model because no one else is going to hire you, you know? So it's,
okay.
Yeah. And we call them different things though, you know, in the book, these are alt models. They're also art models because they're creating art with their photography and stuff. So we definitely use different terminology, but we thought that in the marketing for this, alt model is going to be the thing that catches more eyes and it's probably a bit more accurate to what we're doing.
Okay, cool. And how is modeling and the modeling industry going to inform this? Is it just kind of a way to get your main character into the situation, or is it going to be something that they deal with in an ongoing fashion?
It's not something they deal with. It's more something that they are. You know, it is an ongoing part of the book, but through this, I'm kind of telling a story about what it means to be a creator, what it means to be freelance. And I think that even someone who is approaching this, who doesn't understand or know what these characters do in their lives as models, they're going to understand the struggle of working for yourself and trying to make money while doing what you're passionate about, your art. And that is kind of what we're working toward pushing here. The idea that it's not that they're just doing art, it's that they're trying to make a living off of their art and trying to make their passion into their job. And through that they're making compromises. And their compromise happens to be becoming drug lords. But we all do, we being anyone in this industry, do make immense compromises to make the dream of what we do come true, you know?
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. That'll resonate really well with people.
So, Emily, what was your approach to like designing some of the characters for this? Because I've seen like at least the cover for this series, and like it looks gorgeous.
Thank you.
Like, yeah, I mean, what was your approach for this versus some of the other work that you've done?
So I think this compared to working on the Wilds, the biggest difference with the character designs is Vita Ayala had a kind of specific like mind or specific look in mind when we were doing the character designs. Like they sent me like actors and models that they wanted to be used for reference and stuff like that, whereas Pat, it was more like he was just like just draw characters and then I'll write them. And I'm like, okay. So, I mean,
Very
I
cool.
guess the biggest thing is to try to make them look different from each other and recognizable from one another, but also like just super unique and like memorable, and having stuff that stands out about each character specifically, which makes it really fun to draw, because I never thought I would enjoy drawing pink hair as much as I do, but it's it's some good stuff, man.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good to see.
Yeah, I almost feel bad for the big sleeve tattoo that you have to draw probably a lot. I don't know how often that character shows up, but I can't imagine drawing all of those flowers all the time is very fun. But I mean, I love the way that it looks, at least in the promo pic or images that I've seen.
I actually don't have to draw that at all.
Oh, you don't?
I work in Photoshop, so what I did is I did like a turnaround of the character with her tattoos on, and then I just copy and paste the tattoos onto every panel, and
Gotcha.
it saves so much time.
Industry secrets revealed on I Read Comic Books.
So is this going to be a mini-series? Is there a set number of issues, or do you think this might be an ongoing?
Yeah, I mean, for now it's a mini series. It's 4 issues to start, but if we do well, I would love to come back. I do have an idea of what would happen in the next couple of miniseries, but for now it does tell a complete story with the first 4 issues. So if we don't go beyond what we're doing now, it's going to resolve. It's going to not leave anyone hanging. But if we are successful, we're going to open the world up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So what's the collaboration like between the two of you as you work on like at least the first or all 4 of the issues? Like, do you guys like collaborate to create the script together, or is it like here's a script and then Emily adds notes or something like that?
It's mostly like I'll get the script from Pat, and then I'll just basically start drawing it, and if there will be something that I can like imagine for like a page layout or for like just a different way to change up the way it looks, I'll just kind of do it without asking Pat.
Okay.
Like there's this page that was supposed to be in the most recent issue I'm drawing. There's this page that was supposed to be 7 panels, and I think I changed it to like 16 or something like that.
Just a little bit of a difference.
Just a
Minor
little
change.
bit. So yeah, stuff like that. And he's pretty cool with it. He never has a problem with it, which makes it super easy on me.
Oh no, I mean never, because the truth is, my instincts are to write so many panels, but that kind of makes most artists want to kill me. So the idea that I'll write 7 panels, and instead of getting a complaint about that's too many, that Emily will instead give me 16, that's great to me. That's great to me.
Yeah, it's really fun. I think it works especially for this type of comic book too, where it kind of like I was trying to make it look a lot like just kind of the feel of like a social media page or a website. So adding a lot of like insert panels and just going crazy with the layouts like that is really fun, and I've never had a challenge like that before.
That's awesome. So what kind of did you guys have to do like any specific research? Maybe did you hang out with some drug lords, or did you hang out with some alt models to get this book done?
A lot of this comes from my wife Amy. Beyond being a writer and sculptor and singer, she also is a model, and she's gone on many photo shoots that I've gone with her too. And a lot of the things that I've put in this book to just build that world and make this seem real are things that I've seen and experienced through her. As far as the drug angle, not so much there, but what I did do was this is so not how I normally write, but I wanted the business to be so sound, because you're always going to get someone who reads the book and go, well, that couldn't happen. But I've structured the actual business here more than the plot. The business is sound. The business very much could work, Because the truth is that no one really understands what it means to be an influencer. No one has been able to quantify that kind of income. It's a very new kind of income. So I thought, what better way to launder money than to do it in the one form of income that no one knows how much someone makes. Like,
right.
For instance, the craziest thing in the world is that Logan Paul is more famous than any of the celebrities that we were devoted to growing up. More famous than any of them. And just there's an entire generation of people who have no idea who that is and have no idea how much income he's making, you know? So this is, I think, such an industry that maybe the drug lords should explore, you know? because it just seems like the perfect way to hide money. And I was kind of surprised that no one had thought of this before. So yeah, I did structure the business from the ground up to make sure it could work before diving into the actual story. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what people think of it as far as that goes.
So, is there going to be like a disclaimer at the beginning of each issue, like, we do not want you to sell drugs, but this is a good way to do it? Like,
if you must do crime.
Well, yeah. You know, like the truth is, like, if someone wants to sell drugs, fucking more power to them. You know, because like people need, you know, to make money to get by. You know, it's that Tupac line, you know, how he how he feels bad selling rocks, but it feels good to put money in the mailbox, you know. So yeah, you know, this book is very much not the kind of book where it's like, having a message about how selling drugs is bad. I don't want to be an after-school special. I definitely just want to get into the idea of how far will someone go to monetize their art, their passion, you know?
Right.
And how much will they forgive about the darker side of the business? Because that's definitely very prevalent in comics, where we kind of we compromise our morals and what we see in ourselves as creators to make a living. So I wanted to kind of take that to the extreme and put that in the drug business.
Gotcha.
So is there anything that you want readers to kind of keep in mind as they go into issue number 1?
There's a lot of nudity in the book. That's kind of the main theme that I would keep in mind. Is this is not like a funny book. This isn't for your nephews and your nieces and everything like that. It's a crime thriller. It's about alternative models. It does not shy away from nudity. It's not the nudity. I don't think is sexual in nature, but it's very much an adult book. That's the only thing I would say that's like kind of like a warning, I guess, for a book like this. But I mean, it's done really tastefully. Pat's done a really good job of like portraying like alt models through the comic, and yeah, it's really well written.
And I'll also add that Emily has done a great job of making the people seem real, and I think that there are books where I paired with artists where I've definitely we wouldn't have gone this strong in the direction of the nudity if Emily drew the characters in a way that I felt wasn't realistic, because I think it's important to be true to the world that we're trying to capture, and I think Emily has done an amazing job in that. And we've worked with references, like there's this scene where there's a character who is she is tied up in ropes and there's this whole section, not even of alt models, but just there's a community of people who create these beautiful poses by tying themselves up in ropes. There are trainers who tie other people up in ropes and have them like create this kind of like ballet pose as they dangle it, and it's supposed to be this very this line between empowering beauty and submitting to someone. So we've played with that, you know, that kind of thing, in the sense that these girls do, and we've played with the idea too of what male photographers specifically, misunderstand about models and try to get them to do certain things. Like there's this one line in issue 2, where Haley tells this story about how this photographer was trying to direct her poses, and about how and that kind of, to me, is one thing that I've heard my wife complain about, but it also kind of brings me back to comparing this art form to what we do as comics creators too. We always have people who think they know better, who are working with us, trying to direct the way that we perform. And what I hope people take away from this, because obviously the focus is going to be, they're modeling, but I hope the larger idea is that they're creating art, and there are people who are kind of corrupting that while also empowering it at the same time. And that's very true of what we do.
Yeah, it's good to hear. It always drives me nuts when somebody puts into a comic a situation in which there would be nudity, and then they go to great lengths to like have people twisting out of the way, so you never quite... so you never see the evil hated nipple or anything like that. Like, there's always like a towel hanging on a rack that happens to be in the way. It's like, come on, if you want to have a nude scene, just make people nude. Like,
that reminds me very much. And I've actually given this note before. There's this ridiculous sequence in the 3D Beowulf film where Beowulf is nude fighting Grendel, and as he's fighting Grendel, things are flying through the air, blocking his junk the whole time.
That's so funny.
And I've given that note that like you got some Beowulf action going here. Like there's suddenly a goblet here. Like what's going on?
Yeah, like if you're that scared of the wiener, just put pants on him. Like
right.
Yeah.
That's.
I mean, hold on. I want to take a step back and talk about what is this 3D Beowulf movie? I've never heard of this before.
Oh yeah, it's I think Neil Gaiman actually wrote it. It's it came out in like 2000 and maybe 3 or 4 or 5.
Yeah,
and
mid 2000s.
Yeah, I mean, probably most famous of it is the most ridiculous thing that Grendel's mother, who's supposed to be this horrific sea creature, is actually just a golden Angelina Jolie.
What? Okay, so sorry, I said this, and my fiance, who was like napping on the couch, shot up and gave me a look like, you've never seen this before? So I feel like I'm very much out of the loop.
No,
I have to look this up. I mean, the fact that it's called 3D Beowulf, I was just like, is this animated? Is this... It's in real life, like an IRL movie, like live action film?
No, it's the kind of 3D where it's just like a bit advanced beyond Polar Express.
Oh, okay. Okay,
yeah,
I get that.
It's live action ish.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
This is so confusing. I'm looking at it. It's like looking at a video game cutscene or something.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
that's
that's
pretty
exactly
accurate.
what it feels like. Yeah, absolutely.
It's so weird. Why does Angelina Jolie's his mother?
Yeah, she's Grendel's the monster's mom, and she's just like I mean, her only I have to imagine that the script just says golden and hot. Like there's there's no monstrous qualities about her at all. It's just like maybe they had an idea, and then they hired Angelina Jolie, and some asshole was like, "What if it's just her?" Like,
No
there's
way.
a scene where she's coming out of the water, though, so she has to be a sea creature.
Oh yeah, that
so
justifies it. She was in water, therefore she is a sea creature.
Yeah.
Oh
I think
man,
that
okay.
her braid is like her tail or something. It's a lot.
Oh yeah. Yep. I remember that.
Oh, I'm looking at screenshots. This looks insane. I don't know if I should watch this, but I feel like I must watch this now.
This will have to be our
Definitely.
next
I
like
don't know if I can put
IRCD
myself
group
through
watch.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an experience.
Sorry to totally get us off track here. I mean,
No,
when
no,
you drop
no.
a reference like that, I gotta figure out the rest.
No, for sure, man. I mean, I love going off track. I feel like that's the jewels,
It's either like HelloFresh or just like Angelina Jolie fish monster.
For sure. I mean, yeah. On one of the first podcasts that we did in this press run, the first half was all just me talking about HelloFresh.
I mean,
I'm not sponsored either. I just love HelloFresh. This shit's dope.
Okay.
They're not
okay.
sponsored yet.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm
You're getting
saying.
there.
They should sponsor me. I talk about it so much.
Well, give us your brief rundown about why you like HelloFresh here on Irie Comics.
Here we go.
Mike, you fool.
I know.
God.
You've uncapped it now.
So, HelloFresh, beyond offering delicious meals on a weekly basis that you can pick from, it has taught me to appreciate foods I would have never tried. Green beans, would have never tried them. Broccoli, I'd eaten broccoli maybe like 4 times in my life before HelloFresh. I have expanded my horizons and learned to cook in so many different ways from HelloFresh. And you can get your box now at HelloFresh.com.
Using offer code I read comic books. No, I'm kidding. That's
HelloFresh bills in the mail, baby.
yeah. I will be sending you your 20% when I get the check, Pat. Thank you so much.
Pat, do you know what a slow cooker is? I feel like that might help out a lot.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know what a slow cooker is, but I'm not sure how many of you guys follow my guy Ryan Cady on Facebook. But Ryan Cady is a writer. He's worked for Top Cow. He's got an Image book coming out. This guy Ryan Cady, and this is way off track, but he posted this picture that he made of wings. These air fried wings. First of all, one, had never heard of air fryer. Super dope.
Same.
2, the wings look good. All right, I was scandalized. If you go to this picture, you'll see the entire comics community hating on these wings. I'm scandalized. I think that Ryan did a great job. And speaking of slow cookers, Ryan now makes me want to get an air fryer. So 1, air fryer, interesting. 2, shout to Ryan Cady. The wings look fine.
Hey, yeah, I think honestly we got to get you a slow cooker. You're somewhere in New York. I'm going to find you, and I'm going to hand deliver you a slow cooker. That's what's going to happen.
I'll take it.
Because honestly, slow cooker will change your life. Emily, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just saying, I looked at the picture. You said that the comics community was hating on it, but there's no comments on it at all.
Wait, hold on. Are you on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram?
Oh, I'm on Twitter. Okay.
Nah, you gotta go to
Facebook.
It's savage. Like Justin Jordan is like just talking shit. It's like,
Oh my goodness.
They look good to me, man. Like
Yeah, maybe everybody is just jealous.
that's what I
Probably.
think too. You know, it's like the wings to me, they have like the lower half is tender, the upper half is crispy, and everyone's saying that they look raw, but they don't. They just look well.
No, I think there's a difference between like fried chicken and then chicken that's just cooked normally.
It looks
Oh
good.
fuck yeah, dude. This is really harsh.
We'll have to put a link in the show notes or something.
Yeah, we'll have to find this. This sounds intense.
They're all like talking about how he's gonna get like food poisoning.
Oh man, let the man discover his own problems. I mean, seriously, he'll be okay.
Can he just live for 2 seconds?
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like Facebook like comics creators is just the best because people aren't like holding back from each other.
Right.
They're not like worried about like publishers reading their tweets.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
right.
Totally. I mean, all right. On this wings picture, I'm not sure if you guys know who this is, Joe Harris. I don't know his books, but I recognize his name. He looks like L.A., but as a person. He wrote
Yes.
he wrote, "The wings look ashamed." That's savage.
Oh my goodness. Joe Harris, I can't believe I supported your great Pacific book. How dare you? Well, okay, you know, let's I mean, I would love to talk to you guys all day, but I'm sure you've got busy lives. So I want to one final bit about this. Where could people find this book? When can they find it? I know you talked about it earlier, but just one final plug. Where could people find Snap Flash Hustle?
Snap Flash Hustle will be available. I guess you said November 5th is the new release, Pat?
December 5th, yeah.
Okay, cool. So December 5th, it's going to be available at your local comic book store. If you want to pre-order issue 2 to 4, I think that's still available to do so. Other than that, you can get it on Comixology, Amazon, stuff like that. I think Black Mask has an online store now that you can buy it off too.
They do, yes.
Yeah. So.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Well then, where can people find the both of you on the internet if they want to reach out and talk about these wings or talk about HelloFresh or this comic book? How about you? Let's start with you, Pat.
Sure, yeah. I'm at Pat Shand, pretty much everywhere, just my name. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr too. Find me there. I'm probably talking about the same shit I'm talking about right now.
I'm at Emily Remisholy on Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, I post a lot of Snap Flash Hustle panels. If you want to see some art from the book.
Oh wait, hold on. I didn't do the thing. Okay.
Oh
wait,
no.
Okay.
Wait. All right. So if you haven't seen the art yet, you have you have to go look at Emily's Twitter right now. Seriously, the book looks like nothing else on the shelves. And in fact, Emily, you don't know this. Matt and I were talking on the phone last week. Matt is he who runs Black Mask. And Matt 100% agrees. It looks like nothing else on shelves. It looks amazing. There is no book around that looks like this. It's beautiful. If you don't read the book, and I know I was kind of shitting on writers before who say the art is amazing, the writing isn't, so get it anyway. No, one, the writing is great. Of course, I'm pushing myself. I think I did a great job, but Emily is next level. Seriously, this is going to be the best drawn book of the year, even though we're coming out in December and we're styling on everybody. Everybody. Emily... If Emily doesn't get an Eisner for this, fuck you.
Wow.
Seriously.
I love it.
I'm really glad there's no webcam right now. Oh my god. I feel like this is like the comics creator equivalent of like putting my art on the fridge. It's
people probably think that I'm like kind of like gassing it up right now, but seriously, once you see the book, once you see it, you're gonna know what I mean. Emily is doing amazing work, and I'm not blowing smoke. I really believe that.
Yeah, I from the previous stuff that I've seen, I feel very, very much the same way. This is a very gorgeous book. I'm really excited to read it. So make sure to follow these guys on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr. All their handles and stuff will be in the show notes. You can follow the rest of the show on Twitter. You can follow Kait at Kait L Fear. You can follow Brian at Brian Head. You can follow me at Mike Rappin, and you can follow the show at IRCB Podcast, where sometimes we post polls. Like this week's poll was something I wrote, and now I've totally forgotten it, so I'm so sorry. But we do polls every Friday. It's really cool.
You can find us on Goodreads, where we have weekly threads and Book of the Month discussions. This week we are discussing what we should read for December, so get on there if you have any interest in that. You can also find us at ircbpodcast.com, where we have a pronunciation guide and merchandise.
And we've got a new zine that just came out.
Yeah!
Please make sure to rate and subscribe on the podcatcher of your choice. The more listeners and better rankings we get, the more people we find, and the more people you have to talk about our awesome show with. Speaking of our show, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to send us an email. That address is ircb@destroythescive.org. You can also find us on Patreon at patreon.com/IRCB podcast. We have exclusive audio, early access, and cool stuff like Nick's thesis on the Alien franchise.
Yeah,
it's very good.
It's almost
worth
5,000 words about the Alien franchise.
He goes off.
And I think we're going to actually do like a special Twin Peaks episode where we're just going to talk about Twin Peaks. It's going to be a whole thing. I'm working with a buddy of mine, Matt Burbage, who did the cover of our zine. It's going to be awesome. Infinity Shred is the best band in the universe. They do all the music for the show. Xander is a pure golden ray of light that shines down from the sky. He also edits our show. Thank you to Pat and Emily for being on the show. This is so much fun. Emily, I'm so glad we got to talk to you again. Pat, it was nice to meet you for the first time and probably not the last time. Thank you to Brian and Kait for being on the episode. And until next time, may Great Galactus never visit this planet. And that's the show. So
Sorry.
Thanks,
All I
guys.
can
That
think
was
of
fun.
is just
Yeah.
imagining Golden Xander, like Golden Angelina Jolie. It's like
Oh my
spy
gosh.
painted Xander walking out of a river or something.